Ranger Week on the Paper Crafters Library blog, and we're focusing on Tim Holt's distress stains. Every day this week, we'll share a different technique using the stains, and each day we'll also be giving away a set of 12 distress stains generously donated by Ranger. We'll share details on how to enter at the end of this video. In today's video, I'm going to talk about Picket Fence distress stain and what makes it unique from all the other distress stains. In the video, Introduction to Distress Stains, one of the key properties of distress stains that I talk about is their translucency, meaning you can see through the distress stains to the surface or stamped image beneath. Picket Fence is different than all the other distress stains because it's only semi-translucent. It contains a white pigment, which is what gives it its color, along with some opacity. It's packaged in the same type of bottle as the other distress stains, this 1 ounce hard density plastic bottle. And before you use it, you have to prime the valve exactly as I showed you in the Introduction to Distress Stains video. Now there's one key difference though, and that is that before you can start applying it to your surface, you have to give the bottle a good shake before you use it. There's a mixing ball inside the bottle that helps disperse the pigment throughout the solution. So before you use your Picket Fence stain, and every time you use it, it's recommended that you give the bottle a good shake. And there you can hear the mixing bowl. So once your Picket Fence is thoroughly mixed up, you can then apply it to your surface in the same way as you apply your other distress stains. You flip your bottle upside down, press it against the surface, and then you just start swiping it back and forth across your surface, squeezing the bottle if you want to release more of the stain. And as you can see, it allows you to quickly and easily cover a large surface area. Now, unlike other distress stains, because Picket Fence is semi-translucent, it will show up on darker surfaces. Here you've seen me apply it to craft. You can also apply it to black. So here you can see what it looks like on black. Now, one of the things you'll probably have noticed is that as you apply it, it's quite bright and white. However, as it dries, and you can start to see it a little bit on this tag, the intensity of that white starts to disappear, giving you a more whitewashed effect. So here you can see what one layer looks like dried on craft and what one layer looks like dried on the black. So you still see the color of the surface beneath, and as I said, it looks quite whitewashed. Now with repeated application of layers, the color becomes more opaque. So here you can see the craft one layer versus here I think I have 3 layers applied, and then here with the black, here I have just the 1 layer, and then here I have 3 layers applied. And I can keep going, and again, the more layers I apply, the more opaque it becomes. This semi-translucent property allows you to do some really cool things with Picket Fence. For example, it's fantastic for muting patterns of paper that are too loud or too bright for your tastes. I was a member of a monthly kit club for a while, and every month some of the patterns of paper I'd end up with were just not me. They sat in my paper bins for a long time because I just didn't know what to do with them. But I didn't want to throw them out. And then along came Picket Fence. So here I'm just going to give it a shake again. And I'm going to swipe it across my pattern paper. Gave it a little squeeze just to get more going so I could spread it out further. And then I'm just smoothing it out with my bottle tip. And here you can see with the application of 1 layer, right away the pattern looks more muted. Now if I keep applying layers, I just keep muting that paper more and more. So here you can see it's even lighter. Now of course once it dries it's going to lose a little bit of its intensity. But as you see, it's a great way to alter those patterns so that you can then comfortably use them in your projects. You can also use Picket Fence to alter the color of the other distress stains. For example, here I have a tag where I've placed 3 layers of broken china distress stain, and then I dried it using my heat tool. Taking my Picket Fence, I'm just going to swipe that, give it 1 layer, and blend that across the tag. Now here I just want to quickly share a little tip with you. If you were to just let that dry as is, you end up with quite a streaky looking background. By taking a baby wipe and running it over your tag and using it to blend out the Picket Fence, you get a much smoother application of color. So there you can see right away what a difference it is between the two. Now the other thing I just want to show you is that you see the top of my distress stain and how it's picked up this blue color on the top of the fabric, and that's because the distress stain is water soluble and there's liquid or water also inside the picket fence, and so it reacted when I applied it to my broken china. It reacted with the distress stain and it stained the top of my fabric dabber. If you just take a piece of scrap paper and you just run your picket fence across it until it becomes clear. I don't know if you can see this. It started out coming out a little blue and now it's coming white. So although my top is still stained a little bit, I removed any loose distress stain, any of the loose broken china, and I'm now back to the pure white. Because the valve inside the bottle is a one-way spring, it's a one-way spring valve, the broken china or whatever color you happen to layer this over top of won't seep into the bottle, but it can contaminate the top. So you just want to make sure that when you're applying this over a water-soluble or water-based ink that you do take a minute to clean it across copy paper. So here's an example of 3 different looks you can achieve with this simple technique that I just showed you. Here's the tag that I first layered 3 layers of distress stain onto the broken china, and then I just simply stamped on top with a background stamp using jet black archival ink. Now the tag where I covered it first in the broken china and then applied my picket fence, what you just saw me do a moment ago, when I overstamped with it with the same stamp, you can see the difference. This one just looks a lot more, you get a nicer, brighter color, also smoother. Finally, I took this tag where I had applied my broken china, my picket fence, my stamp, and then I applied more picket fence on top, and you can see there it mutes the color more and it mutes my stamped pattern. So 3 different effects you can very easily achieve. Now, in addition to applying picket fence over top of the distress stains, you can also apply it underneath the distress stains to get a different effect. Now here I've got a piece of Tim Holtz craft resist paper. It's in a pad form and is put out by Ideology. And this that you see here is the natural color paper. Now here's what the broken china distress stain looks like applied directly to the craft resist paper. And then here's what it looks like when I apply a layer of picket fence over top of the broken china. So the same way in the technique that I just showed you with the tag a few minutes ago. Now here's an example of what the color looks like when I applied my picket fence first to my paper and then applied my broken china. So in this case, my picket fence is underneath the distress stain, and you can see how you get, again, a totally different effect. Here's just the pure broken china. Here's broken china with picket fence on top, broken china with picket fence underneath. So here's another fun way to use picket fence. Here I've got a tag, which again I've covered in broken china distress stain, 3 layers. This time, instead of just swiping my picket fence across the tag, I'm going to take this Crafter's Workshop template and lay it over my tag. I'm then going to apply my picket fence by simply dabbing it onto my template to the cardstock below or to the tag below. When I remove the template, you can see what a pretty pattern that's left below. Now I'm just going to give this a quick shot of heat to dry it. So now that it's dried, you can see how I get this really cool tone-on-tone effect. Now in this tag you see here, I took it one step further. After I got this far, I then took my broken china and I proceeded to swipe another layer of the broken china distress stain over top of this background, muting the effect of the picket fence even more. And then I added some stamping on it. So you can see what a really cool effect that gives you. So we've looked at the effects of applying picket fence both above and below the other distress colors. In this example, I want to show you what picket fence looks like when it blends with distress stains. Now this tag here is an example of a technique called wrinkle-free distress. It involves taking your distress stains and applying it onto your nonstick craft mat and then swiping your tag through it. And for this one I used broken china and shabby shutters. And this technique's demonstrated in another video. But here you can see what the final effect looks like on the tag. Now, when you take the picket fence and add that into the mix, so you apply your colors of distress stain to your mat, and then you apply your your picket fence distress stain there. Again, you don't want to mix the colors, and then swipe your tag through it. This is the effect that you get. And you can see the colors are more muted than the wrinkle-free distress that was just the pure distress stain, but you also get this really pretty marbled effect. And we also demonstrate this wrinkle-free distress incorporating picket fence in a separate video. So now in this example, I want to show you what kind of an effect you get when you stamp with picket fence onto a distress stain background. I've created the background of this tag using a blended distress technique, slightly different than the wrinkle-free distress I referred to earlier, and again, we have a separate video for this. So you simply take your picket fence, give it a good shake, and then you pat it or drag it onto your stamp. Now the stamp I'm using here comes from the Tim Holtz Spring Sprung stamp set, and I'm just using this foliage pattern. And I'm not squeezing my bottle of distress stain because I don't want to saturate the stamp too much. I just want to make sure that the image is covered with my distress stain. And I'm then going to take it and stamp onto my blended distress background. And there you can see what that looks like. Now as it dries, which I'm just using my heat tool here to speed up the drying process, what ends up happening is you end up getting a ghosted image. So you can see how it just faintly shows up against the pattern of the background. Now you can leave that as is, because you get a really pretty effect like that, or you can overstamp it, getting a more shadowed effect. So here I've done the same technique that I just showed you here, except I took the stamp, inked it up then in my Ranger Jet Black Archival, and overstamped it, slightly offsetting my stamp. And you can see what beautiful depth and dimension it gets. So this whitewashed or ghosted stamping technique is another really cool way to use your picket fence. So already in this video you've seen me use the picket fence distress stain in a number of different ways, and really that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many more amazing ways you can use this product. All it takes is a little imagination and a little playtime. So over the course of Ranger Week on Paper Crafters Library, we've been focusing on different techniques using distress stains. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, each day this week, Monday to Friday during the week of April 16th to 20th, 2012, we're giving away a set of 12 distress stains that you see pictured here, which were generously provided by Ranger. To enter, all you have to do is visit the Paper Crafters Library blog and leave a comment in the post you see here. If you're watching this video from somewhere other than our blog, you'll find a direct link to this post in the video description section. While you're there, we invite you to check out the benefits of becoming a Paper Crafters Library member by clicking on the Benefits of Membership link at the top of our blog. All 5 winners will be announced on our blog on Friday, April the 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you on the blog!